Alright guys, we've had another busy weekend of Championship action and we are back today to round up all of the main talking points. As always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. What did you make of your team's performance over the weekend? Plenty of drama to go through in today's video. And if you do go to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. 300 likes would be massively appreciated. But without any further ado, let's jump into these matches. And there's really only one place to start out, that is at Deepdale for the Friday night kickoff. QPR making it back-to-back wins with a 2-0 away victory at Deepdale. And things for Ryan Lowe right now are looking pretty grim. Just 2 wins from 12 matches. We're conceding goals at an alarming rate right now. We've got one of the worst defensive records in the Championship. And perhaps worst of all, we don't look like creating any chances or scoring any goals right now. In the last 300 minutes of Championship football, we've only created an XG of 0.87, and this team is lacking any sort of creative spark or edge right now, and I'm really not sure where that next win is coming from looking at our fixture list. Now, credit to QPR because the first half sort of passed everyone by, wasn't a great standard from either side. Absolutely freezing sat on Deepdale as well, one of the coldest football matches I've ever been on, but for QPR, the introduction of Chair in the second half absolutely flipped this game on its head. Suddenly QPR had that little bit more attacking impetus, and watching Chair in the flesh, you realise just how good he actually is. I know that QPR haven't had the best of times over these last 12 months, but they've still got an absolute gem on their hands in Chair, and I think that under Sheff Wed, he will be someone who can utilise his best sort of skills and traits really. Come full time, I think this was a deserving win for QPR. They limited Preston to virtually nothing going forward. Preston didn't create any chances of note in this game, and QPR picked their moments to obviously get forward and had that bit of quality when it counted. Massive credit to Sheff Wed and how quickly he's actually managed to change the narrative and picture around at QPR. In the 5 games he's been in charge so far, he's averaging 1.4 points per game, which if averaged over an entire Championship season would be worth 64 points. So comfortable mid-table pushing on there if you're finishing the season on 64 points. That was a far cry of the sort of numbers they were averaging under Ainsworth previously. And it just goes to show the changing of a manager at the right time absolutely can make all the difference, and that's where a lot of the frustrations with Preston fans and Ryan Lowe is coming from right now. Overall, a very frustrating evening for North End, and I'm really not sure where we go from here. Then into the Saturday games, and between West Brom and Leicester, there really wasn't much in this matchup. It was fairly evenly contested in the first half, then going into the second half, both teams looking for that breakthrough. We mentioned how good of a defensive unit West Brom have been so far this season, so Leicester not easily finding those gaps in that back line. Eventually that quality told with Ndidi linking up well with Dewsbury Hall, but the Baggies get back into the game through Josh Madger, and Corberon's men really going for the winner, pushing everyone forward heading into stoppage time, and ultimately that's what cost them as Leicester then pipped it on the break. Dewsbury Hall squaring it for Winks to score the winner. Overall, I think that every Leicester fan will be absolutely buzzing with that. Another performance where they weren't quite at their firing best, but considering the Foxes have had a little bit of a blip recently in form, the fact they've taken 7 points from their last 3 matches certainly can't be sniffed at, and the fact that the next 2 games are at home as well, which I think most people would fancy them for. From a West Brom perspective, I wouldn't be too down after that one. To lose it in the last minute is obviously absolutely gutting, but I think they went toe-to-toe with a very good Championship side who are most likely going to win the league this season, and I'd certainly fancy them to bounce back in their following matches. Then moving over to St Andrews, and the Wayne Rooney project doesn't seem to be picking up much steam right now. Another frustrating result for them, a goalless draw against Rotherham, and had it not been for a Dion Sanderson goal line clearance after a mix-up when playing out from the back, Rotherham very could have easily gone ahead and won this match. It felt like a step back in performance levels as well, even from midweek. I know they shipped 4 against Blackburn in that game, but at least got into some threatening areas. This one just seemed like a really flat performance, and seemingly the Birmingham fans made their thoughts known at full time with some boos ringing around St Andrews. For Rooney in the Birmingham job, that's now 8 games in charge, and in that fairly small sample size of matches, he's only averaged 0.6 points per game, which if projected over an entire season would be worth just 29 points. I know that Birmingham have had some tough games in that period, but even so, going up against the Rotherham side with the dismal away record that they do, these are the sort of matches where you expect them to be a little bit more aggressive on the front foot and showing what the Wayne Rooney template going forward is going to look like, because so far Blues fans haven't really seen that. Next up, and what a result for Watford, beating Hull 2-1, and I was using this fixture as a bit of a litmus test for Valérien Ismaël's side. A lot of the decent results that they have picked up recently have been against bottom half opposition, but this being against a fellow playoff challenger, and what a result in the end. On another afternoon, I do think this result could have gone a different way. Obviously, it was Watford who take the lead, Hull immediately respond, a brilliant run from Liam Delap, which Scott Twine manages to finish off, and it was the home side who were seemingly in the ascendancy for a lot of this game, and the crucial moment coming in the second half when they're awarded the penalty, but Jaden Philogene can't convert. I think that most Championship fans, and Hull fans especially, would have probably put their house on Philogene converting that penalty. After that moment, Watford seemed to grow in confidence that slight bit, and it is an absolute freak goal which ends up winning this one for the away side. But a terrific finish nonetheless, and this result now leaves Watford just 3 points off the top 6, a far cry from where they were just a couple of months ago, and a great weekend for the away side, with the vast majority of teams around them dropping points this weekend. For Hull, I wouldn't be all too disheartened with that. Yes, it was a disappointing result in the end, but the basics of the performance levels were still there, still got into a lot of very good attacking areas. It just wasn't that final ball which dropped for them, and the penalty miss turned out to be a real killer blow for them. We saw Ipswich's relentless record at Portman Road continuing. They're averaging over 3 goals per game scored at Portman Road right now, and the only way any side's getting 3 points out of them is if they score a minimum of 3 goals when they travel to Ipswich. The only home game they've lost so far this season was obviously that 4-3 defeat they had at Leeds earlier on. Good first half from Ipswich, an early lead they take, and then what a goal from Burns. One of the finishes of the season, outside of his boot from the edge of the box. I can't tell you how many times I've watched that goal over and over again. Big improvement from Coventry after the break though, with the changes that Robins made at half-time. We did see a bit of a drop-off there from Ipswich, whether that was them going back into their shell a little bit, wanting to manage that game, or Coventry just improving themselves on that first half performance. A key point of this game coming with the penalty miss as well. If Coventry stick that away when they're awarded it in the 73rd minute, suddenly I think there's a lot more nerves around that ground. Obviously Coventry eventually do pull a goal back, but by that point it was too late and only a consolation goal. So another fantastic result for Ipswich. Bit of a drop off in the second half which was noted, but their relentless form at Portman Road continues for another week. Speaking about teams who have had absolutely unrelenting home form this season, we have to touch on Leeds United. They've now made it 7 wins on the bounce at Ellen Road, the only Championship club yet to lose a home match this season, and a really impressive showing here against a sturdy Middlesbrough side who didn't make it easy for them. Coming into this game, I was backing Borough to get a point from it. I thought that maybe with that extra day of recovery that they got from playing a day earlier in midweek, that could have come in handy for this game, but to be completely honest, Leeds looked really quite fresh for this one. Their attacking play was on point, and ultimately they were able to put Middlesbrough to the sword. Despite an early setback for Leeds, they soon recovered from that, and when those attackers are on form, there's absolutely no stopping them. The gap between Leeds and the top 2 stands at 7 points, with Ipswich and Leicester also winning this weekend. But if Leeds continue to go about the games as they have done recently, especially picking up wins like they have been doing at home, then slowly but surely they could chip away at that 7-point deficit and slowly catch up to those 2 sides in Ipswich and Leicester, who did run away with things quite early on. Impressive stuff from Leeds here. On another day, perhaps Borough could have snuck a point from it, but as the attacking stats show there on screen, it was Leeds who did have the vast majority and better chances in this one, but Borough certainly put up a fight. We saw Millwall against Sunderland ending all square. 2 sides coming into this game, neither of which were on the greatest run of form. It was Millwall who started out as the stronger of the 2 sides, going into half-time with a 1-0 lead. Lovely finish by Kevin Nisbet. Perhaps guilty of not killing off this game. Sunderland grow into it in the second half, but the way Sunderland get back into it, a little bit of a contentious decision here given by the referee. It's Ryan Leonard going up against Jack Clark. Leonard goes in with quite a rash looking slide tackle. On first viewing, looks like a penalty, but when you do look at it from a different angle and slowed down, he does appear to get quite a bit of the ball to knock it away from Jack Clarke. The referee obviously doesn't see that, awards the penalty, and Clarke sticks it away for 1-1. The result for Sunderland means it's just 2 wins from their last 9 matches, but like a lot of other teams around them, results this weekend probably did go their way in the fact that they are still just 3 points off the top 6. So pressure there on Tony Mowbray right now because of this run of form they're currently on. They are in a rut right now. If they can string together some consistency over December, suddenly they will shoot right back up the table because it's so close and congested in this part of the table right now. The pressure is seriously mounting on Alex Neil at Stoke right now. It's now 5 games without a win. They're just 5 points above the relegation zone. 3 consecutive losses on the bounce and ended up throwing this one away against Plymouth. Now, Plymouth not at the races in the first half. It didn't look like Stoke were able to take advantage of that. And to be honest, could have gone into half-time with a 2-goal lead, which would have served them well. Going into the second half, it looked like a much improved performance from Plymouth. And ultimately, they made their attacking quality tell as they got the job done in the end. Some great limbs, it looked like, in the home end when that second goal went in especially. What does the picture look like now for Stoke? Well, it's 10 defeats from their opening 19 championship matches. They've conceded significantly more goals than they've scored, and looking at their upcoming fixtures, it really feels like these next 2 games for Alex Neil in particular are absolutely make it or break. They've got 2 upcoming home games against Sheffield Wednesday and Swansea. If they don't take advantage of both of those fixtures, I'd be seriously worried for Neil's future there. In terms of Plymouth, that's a significant boost to their survival chances. If you're able to take points away from the sides around you, you will stand yourself in a great position, and thought they did well in this match to react from what looked like a pretty poor start. And fair play to Sheffield Wednesday. What a win this was in the end. 3-1 against Blackburn. Do think that on reflection of the full game, this scoreline was probably a little bit harsh on Blackburn, who definitely had chances, just weren't quite clinical enough. And ultimately, this was a story of Wednesday taking their chances and Blackburn not. Sammy Smolik still managed to get himself on the score sheet for Rovers. Can't stop scoring at the moment. But credit to Sheffield Wednesday and Danny Röhl for building on that result from midweek against Leicester. Does make you think when you've seen the improvement from Wednesday over these last few weeks, how many points they'd be on right now had they gone with Röhl from the start of the season. Ultimately, even with this win, Wednesday still find themselves 11 points adrift from safety. Defensively, I do have a few question marks over Blackburn. Of the sides currently in the top half of the table, only my side, North End, have conceded more goals than Blackburn have, and even looking into a few of the underlying metrics, Blackburn are pretty high up for XG faced, shots faced, and things like that so far this season. So that's a real area where John Thomason will need to look into and address if they are going to go that extra step and make it into the top 6 this season. But bit of an off day for Blackburn there, but a great result for Wednesday regardless. Southampton can't stop winning right now. They're now 11 games without a defeat. It was Adam Armstrong with the double in this game, and yeah, real credit to Russell Martin for tying together this consistent run of form after that patchy bit of form they had a little bit earlier on in the season. They've put that behind them now and are looking a lot more consistent at both ends of the pitch. Another home clean sheet here, worth noting. For Cardiff, they do find themselves in a little bit of a rut right now, just 1 win from their last 5 matches. I think a lot of people will find it tough to go to Southampton this season, especially with how they keep the ball away from you and how many chances they have been creating recently. Looking into Cardiff's next couple of fixtures, they do have back-to-back home games coming up against Millwall and Birmingham, 2 games where I would back them to pick up a few points in. And to be honest, I had a quick glance over Southampton's upcoming fixture list, and you know what? For the next month and a half at least, I actually still think they've got a pretty favourable run of fixtures coming up, and I wouldn't at all be surprised to see them continuing to ride out this unbeaten run for the next few weeks at least. Swansea against Huddersfield, both sides really could have done with 3 points in this one, but they each had to settle for a point. Charlie Patino with a late equaliser for the Swans. For Huddersfield, it's now just 1 defeat in their last 5 matches, but still tantalisingly close to QPR, who are just 4 points behind them now. And Swansea, very much a part of this relegation battle, just 5 points above QPR with how they've picked up under Cifuentes recently. Still seems to be a lot lot of grumblings from that Swansea camp and unconvinced about the long-term project under Duff right now. Swansea's next 2 games are away matches against Rotherham and Stoke, and games where they absolutely need to take full advantage of. And then finishing the weekend's action off at Ashton Gate, where Norwich came back late to win this one. And every time David Wagner seems to be on the brink, Norwich just pull out a result out the bag like this one. Now, from a Bristol City perspective, pretty disappointing the fact they took the lead in this one. Had chances to go 2-0 up as well. And I think most would agree this was a decent time to playing this Norwich squad, who seemed to be a little bit down on their confidence. But credit to Norwich for fighting their way back into this one in the second half. Bit of a fortunate own goal which got them back into it, but then some real limbs when Adam Idah slotted that one away in the 95th minute, and you can see just how much it meant to Wagner going ahead and getting himself involved with the celebrations. Looking ahead to Norwich's next 2 matches, I think there's a very strong possibility there that Norwich make it 3 wins on the bounce. They've got a home game coming up against Preston, which as a Preston fan don't fancy our chances very much in that game, and then they've got a home game against bottom of the table Sheffield Wednesday. Narratives and things like that can change very quickly in the Championship, but that result for Wagner's future was absolutely huge, there's no denying that. But guys, there we have it. That will now wrap it up for today's video. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, do get your thoughts in the comments down below. What did you make of your side's performance this weekend? But apart from that, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure to stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content, and I'll see you all in the next one.